Okay, I'm going to share the link again to the workbook just in case folks missed it in the email that we sent out. So you can find it in the chat. And if you have any questions for Liz, any comments, please feel free to pop them in the chat as well. And hopefully, we'll have some time at the end to answer your questions. Everybody who joined us for part one knows that we're in for a really great workshop. So thanks for coming in today. And Liz, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, no problem. Just a disclaimer, I'm in a new room this time, so the lights tend to go out on me if I don't move around. So if you see me waving, that's just me trying to catch the light switch. But welcome back, everyone. So this is exciting. We're walking into week two, and whether you're joining us again or here for the first time, everyone is welcome, and I hope that this is a really engaging series session for you. So you're arriving at session two of our Surviving to Thriving series, and really your presence here, it absolutely matters. Whether you're continuing the journey again or just jumping in, but showing up for yourself is definitely a powerful step. I know we talked about a lot last week, so even just arriving again and carving out the time, high fives and virtual fist bumps to you, that's awesome. I do want to do a quick recap before I skip into some of this session. So if you happen to miss session one, what we did last week was we called out what this was termed like survival mode. And we got really honest about what drains our energy. And then we ended up by the end of the session taking small but mighty steps to shift out of that autopilot, that survival mode. So, not to worry. Today is you're in the right place. If you're new today, you're going to be able to jump right in. And this is all about us taking this journey together and moving forward towards a really like a more resilient and thriving work life. So, we're going to dive into what I've got in store for you today. And to kind of give you a lay of the land, here's what we're diving into. It's again, because it's only 30 minutes, like a micro module. It's going to be fast, it's going to be fun, and it's really going to be totally focused on helping you feel more control of your energy. I'm not here to add more to your plate. What this is really about is being here to help you feel more charged up while you're managing what's already on your agenda. So today, I'm hoping you're going to leave with at least one clear energy goal, with a few reset tools that you can use anytime. I'm going to share some examples, and there are great examples in the workbook, which Cindy had sent the link into the chat. And I'm also going to give you some opportunities again to use that chat box. We had some really great conversation last time. So I have mine open up on my second screen here. So access to your chat screen. If you have the workbook printed, awesome. If you don't, you have a spare piece of paper and a pen. That's really all you need. Got my water ready. Stay hydrated. If you don't have that, you can grab that as well. But let's get into today's session. So before we dive into mastering your energy for part two, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the momentum that we've already built moving into this. So, this is again, exploring what's that one thing that maybe you tried after last session. We were making some commitments about recognizing what survival mode looked like and felt like for us and making those one small shifts to move out of it. That was the call to action. So, whether you said no to something, maybe you added a small boundary, we had a lot of conversation afterwards about, having that support for those boundaries coming in. Or maybe even in the last week, you took a real lunch break. Like those are all wins. So if you were with us last week and you did make any of those small shifts, I would love for you to drop your win in the chat, because it's those small shifts that really start to stack up. It's definitely not about waiting for that motivation to do something. It's about those small things that you can add up to create that momentum moving forward. So even if you had an aha moment of like, hey, I'm recognizing this, this is my survival mode creeping in, I will even take like just acknowledging it and understanding it. So I love Emily's cleaning for 10 minutes a day instead of letting it pile up and getting overwhelmed by it. I love that. I actually met a lady in town at one of the stores, and she has an accountability buddy, her one of her friends, and they text each other, and they literally only set their timer for 10 minutes, and they pick a small space, whether it's a drawer or a cupboard, engagement with others that you don't see often. I love that. Check in and re-energize. Perfect. Awesome. So feel free to keep dropping those in if you want into the chat. I love the left my desk at lunch more than once this week. Mine was I intentionally started pouring my water bottle into smaller mugs to get through it faster, and then walking and taking the stairs to the water fountain coming back up. And didn't reheat my tea as much. Marnie, you're a girl after my heart when we talked about the reheating coffee. That's awesome. Okay. Said no. Perfect. These are great. So keep them coming in. I love this. This is perfect. So I'm all about the check-ins. Again, last week I said to know me is to love icebreakers. So we're going to have a little fun with this. If you have your cell phone nearby, I want you to grab your phone, and if you can take a look, and if you already have that number value, that's awesome. Or if you're just looking at the graphic of the battery in the top right corner, I would love for everyone to plug into the chat what percentage your battery life is right now on your cell phone. 91, 76, perfect. Okay, awesome. They're really up there. Okay, perfect. As they're coming in, great. Okay, now that you've plugged those in, I'm going to get you to take a breath. I want you to take a second and tune into yourself. On a scale of 1 to 100, if you had your own personal battery, what percentage are you at energy-wise? Are you feeling 90% and thriving? Are you running on 12% with no charger in sight? Eek. That's a good description. Maybe you don't need a number value for that, Marnie. Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm seeing a very different perspective of what our phones are at versus what we are recognizing our own internal battery at. And the reason why I'm starting with this is because most of us, I'm not going to say obsessively, but it is like this innate routine where we're charging our phones. I might even go so far as to say that we might panic if they drop below 20% and or that low power mode goes on. When it does, we tend to adjust our behavior. We prioritize getting a charger. Sometimes we put it on like that low energy mode just to keep it stretching out that little bit further. But what we do is we protect our phones from dying. We ensure that they're tucked in at night before we fall asleep, charging away so that by morning they're thriving at 100%, which is probably why that first check-in it was pretty high percentages. But the problem is that do we treat ourselves the same way? So when I was asking you to reflect on your own personal battery, and somebody's like, love a personal battery recovery mode, me too. Do we even notice when our own battery is running low? Do we plug into our own chargers, those mindset shifts, those energy tools, whatever that might look like for you? Or are we continuing to push through, draining and draining, hoping that maybe magically we're going to recharge without even ever plugging in? So, really, the intention behind this is today is all about that. Your energy matters, and protecting it is not a luxury. It's really a leadership skill, it's a life skill, and it's a thriving skill. So, I even have a sign in my office that says, like, what if we recharge ourselves as often as we do our phones? So, if that is your one takeaway to consider, that's kind of the theme that we're going to go on here. So, leaning into how last week we did some powerful work, we started naming what's keeping us stuck in survival mode. And we also chose that one small, like, survival detox habit to shift it. Remember that stop, start, keep. Some of you had shared in the chat that you stopped saying yes when you meant no, or some of you might have paused before reacting. And again, I heard like some of you just took lunch away from your desk, and that's huge. So this week, we're going to keep building on that. We're going to revisit a little bit of that start, stop, keep list, or those detox habits that we talked about that you chose. And this today is really about learning where are you still draining or leaking energy throughout your day. And then turning it into, shifting it into what's one habit, a task, or a thought that's really not worth your energy anymore. So again, that awareness piece is going to pop up because this intention behind energy mastery isn't just about adding in these resets. It's also about plugging the leaks. And what you stop doing when you do that can just be as powerful as what you start doing. So when I talk about plugging leaks, I don't know, what I immediately went to picturing that old Bugs Bunny cartoon, the one where a leak starts up here and they're popping up all over the place and the characters like stretching in these like unimaginable positions in every direction, trying to plug them with fingers, with toes, with their head. And just when you think they've got it under control, another one bursts open. So that's what our energy can feel like when we're constantly reacting instead of feeling intentional behind it. The good news is that the work that we're doing, so these sessions or just these small shifts, learning to pause, learning to reflect, learning to reset, this is what's going to help you recognize where those leaks are sooner. This is going to help you respond with purpose, and it's going to help build stronger boundaries and habits over time. So, really hoping that intentionally you're going to bring these into your workday, bring these back to your teams. You're not going to maybe stop every leak, but you're going to get better and you're going to get faster at plugging them. And that's really where the real strength and resilience starts to grow. So, in the chat box, would love for you to finish this sentence for me. So, you kind of see in the bottom right corner where it says, what's one thing you're still spending energy on that's not worth it? I want you to complete the sentence of like, this week, I'm done spending energy on. And what is that? Is it trying to please everyone? Is it second guessing yourself? Is it overthinking emails? Like that, Stacy, right out of the gate. Is it saying yes when you really mean no? I'm honestly, mine is like scrolling through social media when I'm exhausted. That I don't even know why I do it. I just pick up my phone and then next thing I go down this rabbit hole and it's like an hour later. It could be even things like like this one came out of a training pretending I understand acronyms that I don't. Our organization is really good for acronyms and I'm getting a lot of new material in my new role, and that's another one that I thought. So news feed, all of the above, trying to please others, scrolling, great. Doom scrolling instead of going to bed. Excellent. So just look at in this chat what you are all done spending energy on. And that right there it's really powerful. Those are some of those energy leaks. And everyone over here that you called out is really a step now. Remember that name it to tame it. And once you recognize it, you're creating space in your brain to start that shift. It's creating that step toward reclaiming that energy and your focus. So I want you to now imagine what becomes possible when we stop constantly patching those holes, patching the leaks, creating other like open areas, and really start leading your energy instead of leaking it. So we're going to talk about today what that shift looks like, what that shift from survival mode to thriving mode looks like. And we're also going to learn what it means to lead your energy instead of letting it lead you. So one of these pictures, the one on the left, it reminds me of those book fair posters that you used to see, like just hang in there. But the shift that we're exploring today is really about how most of us are used to reacting all day long with emails, with messages, with meetings, putting up small fires. But having that understanding of like, what if our energy didn't have to run on fumes? So when we lead in this thriving mode, instead of reacting, what we're doing is we stop trying to do more and we start focusing on what actually is moving us forward. So today, this is kind of what it's going to look like as we lead into what this energy awareness map. So if you have access to the workbook, this is a really powerful activity. I've done it in some leadership development trainings. But what this does is it really gives you an opportunity to understand in a typical workday what your energy map looks like. Again, if you don't have the workbook, please don't worry about it. You can even just draw a straight line across on a scrap piece of paper that works as well. But what the energy mapping is it looks like a timeline of your typical day. So you're not just rating your energy, you're starting to notice what those stories are behind it. It's asking you to take a look at the timeline in your day. What is that activity that you're doing there? And are you able to rank it and identify what level of energy you're experiencing during it? You track those energy highs and lows. You label what emotions you're feeling, and you're also jotting down what you're doing. So I'm just going to carve out 1 minute. This is going to be like a speed dating if you had to do like track your morning today on there or on a scrap piece of paper. So you'll see the first line in there if you label it from like 7 a.m. to noon. If you could track and start mapping out your energy, I would love for you to do that. Take 1 minute or so. So you're going to map in like what time you woke up, if you were commuting kids to school, if you were getting other people ready. I know that right out of the gate, mine at about 7 o'clock this morning, I was probably, I don't know, at a struggling four, trying to navigate three other people. Page on the workbook. I actually don't have it in front of me, but you will see, I'm going to assume it's probably about halfway in. The bottom of the section has 3 lines. Page 8. Thank you. Perfect. But again, you really don't need the workbook if you don't want to automatically start writing into it because you're going to return and have more time to do this activity later. But I want you to start noticing specifically from this morning, if you notice where your energy might have dipped, how do you respond to that? Or did you? So taking a look, if anyone has had a chance to kind of map out their morning with the meetings, understand where their energies. So if it was above a 5, you're putting it above that timeline. If it was below a 5, you're putting it below the timeline. What were you doing? What were some of the emotions attached to it? And that number value for your energy. Did anyone notice this morning where your energy might have dipped? And you can use the chat to type in there. And then I'm going to read a few prompts. And if these resonate with you, I just want you to type yes into the chat. So driving to work. Okay. Excellent. So when I've done this before, some people have like a high energy driving in because what they're doing is they're like listening to podcasts or something like that. But then more towards like the end of the day or the end of the day, it'll pick back up again. Dipped before eating. Okay. That's a really good thing to note too, because then if you grabbed like sometimes like snacking and having those healthy snacks available, quick energy boost. Excellent. Okay, answer yes in the chat to any of the following. If your energy dipped this morning, did you power through it and keep piling more on? Did you keep going? Okay. Did anybody reach for a sugar fix, a coffee, or even your phone to kind of like zone out and pretend what was happening wasn't happening? Couple yeses. Coffee times 2. Okay. Anyone feel any level of guilt for not feeling like more productive this morning? Some. Okay. I would love for anybody to share, did you stop and pause and ask, what do I actually need right now when you noticed your energy dipping? Okay. Nose across the board, so you've come to the right place because awareness is what we're going to talk about here. So most of us have historically, maybe we've learned to ignore those energy dips and to just keep pushing through. But survival mode becomes this default when we stop listening to ourselves and that piece of self-awareness comes in. Awareness is really the first reset when we're talking about thriving and getting into that energy management. When you learn to check in with your energy, like you check in on your phone battery, you're learning to unlock this power to reset in real time. So later today, I really invite you to take some time and complete your energy map. You can use a typical work day or work week. And after filling out your map, I want you to take a moment and look for like a small insight or a trend that you notice about your energy patterns. If you start to notice dips after lunch, what is something that you might be able to change up? Or is there like an opportunity to get outside for a few minutes before you jump back into meetings? If you notice like a dip before coming into work, is there something that you can do, like put on like a energizing song as you're pulling into the parking lot, like kind of like a walk-up song to work? So just start to notice about these energy patterns and then start to introduce this sense of awareness of like, okay, I have an insight to this. What is something I can practice to shift it? Later on, I'm going to show you some very specific ideas in the next few minutes. So I already have a list made for you that you can learn to lean into, but this is just hoping that by completing this activity, you're going to gain a new lens on what fuels you or what depletes you. Walk up song, right? It's going to give you permission to respond, not just react. So, especially in those survival moments, and it's going to give you insight into your energy and emotions and how that connects through your day and how it shows up in your work or to your work. Okay, recap out loud. So we just talked about this a little bit. You got really real about your workday, at least so far, and started noticing some highs and lows. So in the chat, I just invite you to finish these two sentences quickly. So first, we'll start with when my energy dips, I usually. So you personally, what usually happens? Do you plug through? Do you ignore it? Okay, reach for coffee, reach for food, snacks, ignore it, zone out. Okay. Powerful statement coming here, intentionally writing it into the chat. So once it goes live and gets some airtime, it's a real thing. Going forward, I want to try. How are you going to shift those? Is it stopping and taking a breath, standing up, keep going? Sorry, Marnie, I feel like that was part of the other one. Going forward, what is something you want to try? And if people don't have an answer, no problem. That's the whole purpose of today is to give you, oh my gosh, ask Siri for a joke. I love that. Movement, fresh air, stop and take a minute, stand up and stretch. I just picture this Siri with a joke thing, and then you kind of going down from office to office and getting other people to break too. Okay, perfect. So we've got some ideas. I am going to show you a few intentional shifts, but really this is just honestly sharing the chat with these levels of like permissions and possibility and good perspective. I'm loving the responses. And again, noticing how many of us are trying to push through instead of pause. This is your reminder again that every time you check in with yourself instead of pushing through, you're really choosing to thrive. So this is a lot of clarity in here. I love this. Okay, so the next slide, and it's also in the workbook, they're tiny science-backed shifts that you can use in real time to reclaim your energy, reclaim your clarity, reclaim calm without needing a full day off or a week away. So we're going to take a look at some of these strategies that can help you reset and recharge, especially when you need it most. So this is also, again, like I mentioned in your workbook, this is helping you switch from this awareness to action. Awareness, quick win, even being able to identify it and then stop and pause and like, okay, what do I need? So you have already identified some of the ways your energy gets drained. You're looking at now how you can refuel it intentionally. So on this slide, here's a menu of micro resets that you can lean into. They are small, they're practical, they make a big difference when they stack up. Each one comes with a short explanation of why it works, because when we understand the why, we're more likely to make it a habit. Also, it gives you that sense of energy of like, okay, I align with this, and you're more committed to it. So as you flip through, it's just inviting you to look at what ones do you already use? How have they helped you? Or like in what kind of situations can you lean in and reach to this? The stars are ones that you can make a commitment later on to actioning over the next week. And again, we're not aiming to do all of these. This isn't like a checklist that you have to check off. This is really about choosing a few that feel doable, that feel nourishing for you. So I do encourage you to pick one or two. And again, to hammer this point home again, most of us, we've clearly identified that we don't notice if we need a reset until it's too late. So this is why we're not just talking about having a menu of these micro resets. We're also talking about recognizing when to use them. So remembering your body and brain, they're always sending signals. They usually start as whispers. Remember, like the tight shoulders, sighing more, the passive aggressive responses, zoning out in meetings. So this is just that reminder not to ignore those whispers because what they'll turn into are shouts. They'll turn into like irritability, fatigue, brain fog, crashing at the end of the day. So again, referring back to week one, recognizing what some of those early warning signs, proactively looking for those leaks and energy drains so that you're getting those signals to pause and reset. Another reminder, micro resets, they're not just a self-care tool, they're really a performance tool. They're going to help you stay focused, they're going to help you stay present and clear, so you're not just reacting to your day, but responding with purpose. So when you make space for these resets that you see on here, what you're doing during your workday, you're stopping to borrow that energy from your evenings and weekends that you're using to recover and recharge. You're bringing it into your day, and that's what real work life balance is starting to look like. So, again, looking to see what works, evaluate that. That's how it'll become impactful. And the mindset shift I want to offer, your energy is the most valuable resource that you have, even more than your time, because without energy, your time isn't productive, it isn't creative, and it's not joyful. So, again, bringing it back to your phone, when you're down to that last 10% of battery, you, again, remembering you're looking for that charger, you're closing background apps, you're maybe dimming the screen, you're looking for opportunities to save it for what really matters, like calling for takeout because you don't feel like cooking dinner. So remembering why when we burn out through our last 10% on guilt, personally overcommitting, being that perfectionism or people pleasing, or spiraling over a comment from a meeting that was like 6 hours ago. This slide is really set as a reminder to let you to choose where your energy goes, to learn how to protect it. You're not being selfish, you're being strategic. That's what allows you to show up where it really counts. So, our final reflection, again, I just want you to consider what's one thing you've been giving energy to lately that doesn't deserve it. Again, we're going to make it real. So, what's one small boundary or reset or intention that you want to try this week to protect your energy? And it could be like, okay, this afternoon, I'm going to put this one tiny little thing into play, unhooking from guilt. I love that. These commitments, they don't have to be big. They just, again, need to be intentional, engaging with more self compassion. Sometimes that deep breath of like bless and release is really powerful. Thank you, Emily, for sharing that. That's really great. Others feel free to share in there. But I just want to leave you with a thriving challenge for the week before we meet next week for our final session. I want you to reclaim just 1 hour for yourself. That's it. 1 hour over the next 7 days. And it does not have to be all at once. You can break it up into 10 or 15-minute blocks if that's better for your day. But what matters is that it's intentional. It's time just for you without guilt. Maybe it's to do focused work. Maybe it's to go for a walk. Maybe it's to unplug from your phone, stretch, write. I don't even care. It could be stare at the wall and let your brain breathe. But the mindset shift is really just to protect that hour like you would a meeting with your boss, because you are the boss of your energy and it deserves that level of respect. What it looks for you, I don't know. It'll look something different for everyone. Mine, I block off 10 minutes at the start of my day to go through my calendar and I make my list of my top 3 priorities. And then on Fridays, I block some more time before I go home for the weekend because I need to bless and release some things and prepare to wind down for the weekend. So, this, I love. Your call to action is just 1 hour. And again, remembering that showing up today, this is my opportunity, message of gratitude. You paid attention to your own needs. You're starting to notice your rhythms, experimenting with small resets and protecting what matters so that you're no longer running on empty. You're reclaiming that spark, and that makes everything better. So I want to be able to carry that energy into next week's session where we're going to talk about and explore how to design a path that doesn't just feel manageable, but actually exciting. I want you to have some joy behind it. All right. So, in a whirlwind, nailed it, 12:30. If anyone has some quick questions or anything like that, or just comments in the chat, I'm happy to stay on for another couple minutes. But just hoping that you'll set that goal for you about building small habits that lead to big growth. But thank you, everyone, again for
What a
attending.
great session, Liz. And
Yeah.
I'm enjoying carving out this time to be part of this and really appreciate all the work you put in. And Liz does what she says. I've heard her a number of times say, I blocked off time on Friday. So I know she does. She walks the talk. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to next Thursday at 12 o'clock. We'll send out the recording and we'll send out the next workbook for you as well. So thanks everybody for joining today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon.